Hello. Welcome again to a look at evidences for the historical reliability of the Bible. Last week we looked at some evidences for the historical reliability of the New Testament. Two of the items that we looked at involved the city of Corinth. We saw that a man with the uncommon name of Erastus is mentioned as an important city official at Corinth in the mid-1st century AD, and we see that this is backed up by the archaeological record. We saw that while at Corinth, Paul was brought before a proconsul named Gallio, a person known from the historical record, but not known as a proconsul outside of the book of Acts, until excavations at the temple of Apollo at Delphi revealed a letter from the Emperor Claudius revealing that Gallio was indeed a proconsul at that time and at that location. Continuing with the theme of Corinth, this week I want to look at another encounter that Paul had at the city of Corinth. While there, Paul met Aquila and Priscilla. They were Jews from Rome, but they were in Corinth because, according to the book of Acts, the Emperor Claudius had expelled all the Jews from Rome. And he found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome, and he went to see them. The record of Claudius expelling the Jews from Rome is likely referred to by the early 3rd century AD Roman historian Cassius Dio in his multi-volume work Roman History. More interestingly, it is definitely referred to by the early 2nd century Roman historian Suetonius in his Lives of the 12 Caesars. In this work, he has this intriguing statement. Since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, he expelled them from Rome. Christus is very similar to the more frequently used name Christus that the Romans used for Christ. It is likely that Christus refers to Christ, and that the context is that of Jewish persecutions during the early spread of Christianity. Whether that is the context or not, we do have verification from Roman historical records of Luke's statement in the book of Acts that the Emperor Claudius had made the Jews leave Rome. Suetonius makes a definite reference to Christianity elsewhere in his writings, and we'll look at that in a moment. The persecutions under Claudius were primarily instigated by the Jews, but under the reign of his successor, the Emperor Nero, persecutions were often instigated by the Romans as well. The New Testament speaks of persecutions during this time period. But did Christianity actually exist during this time period? After all, some skeptics try to claim that Jesus wasn't even an historical figure. And even if Christianity did exist, were Christians actually persecuted at this time? In commenting on events during the reign of Nero, Suetonius says, punishment was inflicted on the Christians, a class of men given to a novel and mischievous superstition. The early 2nd century Roman historian Tacitus also speaks of the persecution of Christians under Nero. Tacitus is viewed by modern scholars as one of the greatest Roman historians. The historical context of Tacitus's reference to Christians is that of the Great Fire of Rome in AD 64. Many Romans were of the belief that Nero himself had ordered the setting of the fire. Nero tried to deflect this anger by blaming it on the Christians. Tacitus, who was born in AD 56 and who was about 8 years old at the time of the fire, perhaps wrote not just from carefully researched historical sources, but also from his own early memories of the event. He writes, "But all the endeavors of men, all the emperor's generosity and the sacrifices to the gods did not suffice to allay the scandal or banish the belief that the fire had been ordered. And so, to get rid of this rumor, Nero set up as the culprits and punished with the utmost refinement of cruelty a class hated for their abominations who are commonly called Christians. Christus, from whom their name is derived, was executed at the hands of the procurator Pontius Pilate in the reign of Tiberius." Check for the moment, the pernicious superstition again broke out not only in Judea, the source of the evil, but even in Rome, that receptacle for everything that is sordid and degrading from every quarter of the globe, which there finds the following. Accordingly, arrest was first made of those who confessed, Then, on their evidence, an immense multitude was convicted, not so much on the charge of arson as because of hatred of the human race. Besides being put to death, they were made to serve as objects of amusement. They were clad in the hides of beasts and torn to death by dogs. Others were crucified. Others set on fire to illuminate the night when daylight failed. Nero had thrown open his grounds for the display and was putting on a show in the circus, where he mingled with the people in the dress of charioteer or drove about in his chariot. All this gave rise to a feeling of pity, even towards men whose guilt merited the most exemplary punishment, for it was felt that they were being destroyed not for the public good, but to gratify the cruelty of an individual. Many of Paul's letters were written during the reign of Nero. He and many of his companions were persecuted for their faith during this time. The early 2nd century Roman historians Suetonius and Tacitus verify that Christianity not only existed during Nero's time, but that their adherents were punished for their faith, as we read about in the historically reliable pages of the New Testament. Join us again next week as we continue to look at evidences for the historical reliability of the Bible.